This is a presentation of the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
If you want your child to live longer, healthier life of quality, of character, and excellence, then you should have them play football. The great Vince Lombardi said that you can never achieve perfection, but if you chase perfection, you might just catch excellence.
Greatness is not a sports term, it's a life term.
You know, it teaches you that nobility of defending and working for somebody else. It teaches you about respect for yourself, about respect for your teammate, and ultimately, it teaches you about respect for your opponent.
The respect of my peers, my teammates, my coaches is really why you play the game.
You learn diligence, because once you're on that team, you got to start working real hard. And you learn integrity, because you got to know right from wrong. You got to know the rules. You got to know, your role and what you have to do.
You've gotten knocked down to not ever waver from what you believe in and to not ever waver from the goal that you've set.
You have to have courage, because just like Tony Dungy said, sometimes you're going to get knocked down.
To pick yourself up, to make yourself the best you can possibly be.
Perseverance, everybody has to overcome adversity, and you learn this in this game.
The ups and downs of the game, those are all parts of life.
You learn commitment. Once you're on that team, you learn that, it's really special to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And this incredibly strange thing that when you surrender yourself to a community of others, that you actually become more relevant, not less.
I've learned as much from tough losses as I have from great wins. In fact, you appreciate the great wins a lot more because of the tough losses.
Love. It probably doesn't seem like you're talking about love all the time, but frankly, that's what you're teaching.
I entered Harvard Law School in the fall of 1950, stayed about 3 weeks and said to myself, I want to be a coach.
Marv Levy first became a head coach in the NFL in 1978 with the Kansas City Chiefs. But he is best known as the leader of the Buffalo Bills from 1986 through his retirement in 1997.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Way to come back, guys. Way to hang in there.
Levy led the Bills to 8 postseason appearances in 11 years and was the first man to coach a team to 4 consecutive Super Bowls.
My family, all girls, is here. Someone once lamented that given my enthrallment with this game, it is a shame that I never had a son. Well, he was wrong. He was wrong. Don't tell me I never had a son. I've had thousands of them, of every size, shape, color, faith, and temperament, and I love them, every one. And because of them, I still hear echoes from those sounds which glorify this game. I hear the cheers of the crowd as Thurman or Andre goes hurtling into the end zone, or as Bruce sacks yet another quarterback. To know the game is great. To play the game is greater. But to love the game is the greatest of them all. I have truly loved this game, and I love everyone who has shared this passion with me. Thank you all for enriching my life.
All right, with that, I want to welcome everyone to the Pro Football Hall of Fame here in Canton, Ohio for our latest installment of the Heart of a Hall of Famer series. Today, obviously, featuring our guest speaker, Mr. Marv Levy. My name is Mike, and I'll be moderating today's session from our studio here in Canton, Ohio. And as you saw there in the video, the mission statement of the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. Those values that we promote, and we'll talk a little bit more about them today, are are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. And I know I'm excited, and hopefully you are too, to hear how those values, along with many other values, have impacted Coach Levy's life both on as well as off the football field. Before I turn it over to him, I do need to just thank a couple people. I first want to thank our friends at Extreme Networks for all they do for us here at the Hall of Fame and for schools across the country. I want to thank our teachers and administrators, specifically John and Tony there at Loyola, where Coach Levy is sitting down at. You guys have been great to work with, though, so thank you for that. And for other teachers, just want to thank you guys for opening up your classrooms and embracing the idea that this message is important to our youth. Lastly, I need to thank our students. I mean, you guys get to ask the questions today. So really, without you, there is no program. So I'm excited to hear what questions you're going to ask of Coach. Like I said, before I turn it over to Coach Lee for his opening remarks, I just want to end with a couple, we call them Marvisms, that Bill Polian shared in his presentation speech at Coach Levy's enshrinement. And I'm going to read them just to make sure I get them right. The first of which is, everyone wants to win. The special person has the will to prepare to win. And the second one is, expect rejection, but expect more to overcome it. Truly one of the great coaches and great men of the game. If we could all please unmute our microphones and give a warm Hall of Fame welcome to Pro Football Hall of Famer, Gold Jacket, Mr. Marv Levy. And with that, sir, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. What a pleasure and honor it is for me to be here and participate in such a worthwhile and meaningful program. To be here with these young men at Loyola Academy in Wilmette, Illinois. It's not just a great program here. Head coach John Polasek was so complimented of the Loyola Academy team, whom I was so confident to coach during my days and his days with the Buffalo Bills. To be here with these men, these students, these young men and these students is indeed an honor. To try to reflect the values of the Pro Football Hall of Fame certainly is something which honors me even further. Yes, sports is about seeking to win, but it's about developing the character qualities which enhance those possibilities and which indeed helps you to rebound when and if you don't win, because the opponent across the field should be respected very well also. I might, if I, after having said that, read to you, I'm going to go off base here, a poem. It's a poem in the book that I wrote about what we call Honor the Game. If I may take a few minutes. As we walk up the tunnel, we hear all the noise. Our hearts beat faster. We feel all the joys in knowing the game is about to begin. We're prepared. We're ready. We want to win. So do those fellows on that bench over there, against whom we'll compete. But let it be fair. Let's hope both teams give an effort to admire and play by the rules. We run to perspire. Let us all be aware that it is truly a game. May both winner and loser know no shame. May we play every moment with honest zeal, and for our opponent have respect that's real. When it's all over and the score is posted, let no one ever say that the winner is boasted. Celebrate and mourn for just a short while, then go back to work. Make that your style. Play hard, play clean, play to win, but win or lose, dig right back in. Honor the game, if that's what you choose. No matter the score, you'll never lose. So that's my feeling about the game and about the people who participate in it, and what a compliment and honor it is to be here today and participate.
Thank you, Coach Lee, for those remarks. And for all of our students too, I want you guys to understand the level of excellence you have to be at to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer, and the opportunity you guys have today to interact with Coach. There have been over 100 million boys and girls to play the game of play the game of football. Out of that over 100 million, only 2.2 million have played the game at the college level. only 27,000 have played, coached, or officiated at the NFL level. Of that 27,000, there are only 303 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So, I mean, we are talking the top 0.001% of this sport. So, one of the cool things about this program is you guys get to ask the questions, but I want you guys to understand the level of excellence that Coach Levy, as well as his fellow Hall of Famers, have reached during their football career, but also how that success has set them up for meaningful lives off of the football field as well. So with that, we'll go ahead with our first question, and we'll go with those students that are right in front of you, Coach Levy. If we have a student there that kind of wants to kick the program off with our first question today. No pressure.
With success, how do you prevent complacency on the team, or like the attitude?
Well, I was a history major in college, and I often use historical quotes by the way the crowd inspired the team to make a point of the nature you had. And though you were much too young, I happened to be in service during World War II. And I can remember the day in 1944 when American troops liberated Paris and they marched in. And General, later President Eisenhower, quoted Walt Whitman, "Remember, after every great achievement comes the challenge for what comes next." So you don't be complacent, celebrate for just a short while, as my phone said, then go back to work. So it was fun, but let's continue. It's just a snippet in your life. Continue.
All right, we'll go out next to Jennings High School. Join us from Jennings, Louisiana, if we have a student there with our next question. Do we have a student there at Jennings ready with a question?
Who is your favorite player to coach?
All right, Coach, we got a question. I don't know if you heard it or not, but it was, who is your favorite player to coach during your coaching career?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll answer that question if he answers this question. Which hand made the noise? In other words, it's hard to say that. I don't know how many people I might have coached during my 47 years career long coaching, but there are so many of them that I have such high regard for, I can't elevate it. It's like saying, who do you love more, your mother or your father? I'll tell you, one of my favorite players is in this room right now, John Hollinsek, who played for him.
Very good. All right, we'll go out for our next question then to Princeton Intermediate, joining us from Princeton, Minnesota. If we have a student there, I see him stand up with a question for Coach.
My name is Kynan, and I was wondering, what did it take to be a pro football player? Well, pro football coach.
With my hearing problem, I need a little help on that. Mike, if you could.
Yeah, the question was basically kind of what character traits does it take to be a professional football coach?
Well, it takes good character traits to be in any admirable profession. But certainly what those Hall of Fame traits are: commitment, resilience. Resilience is tremendously important. I once said that in order to be great in any field, this would include coaching, you have to have good PR. Well, what do you mean, public relations? No, I don't mean public relations. I mean preparation, R, resilience. Let me expand on both of those. Somebody once used to ask players, do you have the will to win? Do you have the will to win? There was a great coach more than 100 years ago at Notre Dame named Duke Rockney, who once said, don't ask my players if they have the will to win. Ask them if they have the will to prepare. Because if they don't have the will to work hard to prepare, they don't really have the will to win, no matter what they say. And resilience, you're not always going to succeed. You may sometime along the way throw an interception. You may miss a tackle. You may lose a game. What do? You lie down and whimper and cry, or do you go back to work? So PR, persistence, and preparation, and resilience. Benjamin Franklin once said that failing to prepare is preparing to fail. He was right.
And if I could just add on top of what you were saying there, Coach, we were doing one of these programs, and I forget who the Hall of Famer was, so I apologize. But he said it wasn't necessarily just the will to prepare to win, but the unique preparation as well. So what are you doing that's maybe different from someone else that'll give you that extra edge as well? So I just like to add that on top of what you were saying there. When we were watching that video there at the start, you spent, I think, 3 weeks in law school and then decided, I want to be a coach. What was it that drew you to the coaching career?
Well, first of all, I went to undergrad. I went to a small Division III school, Coke College in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I had a fantastic football coach there. Actually, at that school, I was able to play all three sports: football, basketball, and track. But I had a great football coach, Dick Lawson was his name. And when I graduated and headed off to Harvard Law School, he said to me, Marv, if you ever want to coach, you got a job on my staff. And boy, did that resonate, and that sunk in on me. It was something I loved. I loved the game. And about 3 weeks in, I realized it. So I transferred over to graduate school, got a master's degree in 1 year. And then after I graduated, I coached in high school, had a job in high school for 2 years. Then this job on my college staff opened up. He offered it to me, and I was back there. So it was a love of the game, and what it meant beyond the game, beyond it was the relationship, what it meant to the people on my team, with whom you worked, with the fans, with everybody.
All right, we'll go out to our next question from South Park High School. Of course, we had to have one school from Buffalo, Coach. So this is our Buffalo school there in South Park. So if we have a question there for Mr. Levy.
What is your favorite memory in Buffalo?
And so the question there was, what is your favorite memory in Buffalo?
My favorite memory in Buffalo, there are so many of them. You know, people talk about the terrible winters and so on and so forth, but nevertheless, our players reveled when it was bad weather. We had this thing, when it's too tough for them, it's just right for us. I was part of it. But what I remember, honestly, were the fantastic fans in Buffalo. People in those sports will know that we went to 4 consecutive Super Bowls, and we did not win any of them. Think of the crushing feeling it was when we lost them. But when we returned to Buffalo, the tremendous support we had from our fans helped propel us to prepare to fight our way back from what turned out to be the impossible dream, but to let us do what no other team ever has done, really, appear 4 consecutive times. So the Buffalo fans were tremendously supportive, and that is my fondest connection.
And Coach, for all of the students here, if you haven't seen the 30 for 30, the 4 Falls of Buffalo, I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. Take whatever it is, 90 minutes or so to watch that. It really kind of documents those 4 years. They went to 4 straight Super Bowls. Probably will never happen again. But part of that was that welcome back to Buffalo after that first loss when Scott Norwood missed that kick wide right. And those fans chanting, you know, we want Scott, kind of really embracing the city.
Yeah, it was remarkable. Yes, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, Coach, did that surprise you, that response when you got back to town after the loss?
Well, I'll tell you, we went to the Super Bowl. Late in the game, we were losing 20-19, got the ball on our own 10-yard line. Jim Kelly is doing a great drive down to the opponent's 29. Scott Norwood lined up with a 47-yard field goal. The ball went 1.5 wide right, and we lost game. Many people don't remember that 3 times during that season, Scott Norwood kicked the winning field goal to help us get to that Super Bowl. But I remember sitting in the locker room after the game, Scott there, and I could go over and trying to console my hardly could think of what to say, and one after another, his teammates came up. Scott, if I would have made that tackle on 3rd and 14, it never would have come down to that. Scott, if I would have hung out to that pass on the 14-yard line, we would have got the points we needed. We would have scored a touchdown. On and on it went. So that at least is arrived back in Buffalo, instead of going to the stadium to wrap things up, they surprised the daylights out of me by taking us downtown into Lafayette Square in Buffalo, a very historic area, into a civic center building, and taking us out on the balcony, and there were over 50,000 Buffalo Bills fans chanting, "We want Scott, we want Scott." And Scott was a rather quiet, introverted guy. Stepped out on the balcony and told the fans something very, "You have just given us the impetus to return to the Super Bowl." And so that was certainly a remembrance of those great fans, to which I have alluded here just a moment ago.
All right, very good. We'll go back to those students there in front of you, Coach, if we have another question there.
Yeah. Out of all the players that you coached throughout your years, what separated the great ones from?
In most part, that's a great question. And in most part, work ethic and character. When I came to Buffalo, we had a wonderful owner, a man named Ralph Wilson. We had a fantastic general manager who was my pride, who had been introduced into the Hall of Fame just 2 years ago, Bill Polian. Mr. Wilson, Bill Polian, and I agreed that we would only bring players of high character forward our team. Now, we did not confuse character with personality. Some were extroverted, some were quieter, more introspective. But did they work hard? Did they prepare? Did they bounce back? We use that mantra, character with ability without character will lose. Ability without character will lose. So the character qualities were very vital. We went past in the draft several times guys who had fantastic ability, but we didn't think their work ethic or their team orientation or their honesty or what have you made them a Buffalo Bill. I'll tell you, your coach was one who had all those qualities. John Holisek, we drafted him out of the University of Illinois.
All right, we're going to go back out to Jennings High School. If we have a student there with a question for Coach Levy.
Yes, sir, we have a question.
If you can go back to the 4 Super Bowls that you lost, what are some things you would do differently to have a more successful offense?
All right, Coach, and the question there was thinking back to the 4 Super Bowl appearances. Is there one particular thing or a couple of things that you wish you would have done differently?
After every game, there are things you wish you would have done differently. You know, if you went for it on 4th and 1, you didn't make it, you wish you would have punted. But the question is a good one. I can't honestly say that, sure, plays that didn't work, you wish you would have done the other thing. In fact, they always used to say that. If it doesn't work, you should have done the other thing. So I'm sorry to be a little bit evasive with the answer, but there's nothing I can really nail down.
We'll go back out then to Princeton Intermediate there in Minnesota. If we have another student there ready with a question.
Yeah. My name's Hunter, and I love the game of football. And I was wondering, what would you have to do to become a pro football coach?
Yeah, Coach. The question was from a young man named Hunter. Said he really loves football, and he wants to know what steps you have to take to become a coach and eventually become an NFL coach.
Well, first of all, if you love coaching, go into coaching. Now, all the time that I was coaching the Buffalo Bills, you'd get hundreds, even thousands of letters from fans, from people, some ask questions. One I would often get would be, how do I become a coach in the NFL? And my answer to that was honestly, young man, it's almost always a man, young man, if that's the only way you're going to be happy, you don't want to be a coach. I mean, I know people who coach at certain levels, whether it be high school, college, and pro, and they just love it. You have to love coaching. It's going to develop. But if the only goal is to coach in the NFL, NFL, the odds are against you, and I don't think you have your eyes on what is it going to do right now. So if you love coaching, do it. If the only way you're going to be happy is coaching in the NFL, period, I would advise not to do it because the odds are very strong that that won't work.
All right, we'll go back out then to South Park High School. We have a student there ready with another question.
What do you think is the most important thing that football teaches?
Coach, the question there was, what do you think is the most important thing that football teaches?
That's a very good question. I think it teaches respect for others, for your teammates, how important other people are in your life or in your endeavors to achieve success. It certainly is important. I think it teaches respect for people who maybe have a little different opinion or on a different team than you are. Respect for them. I think it teaches respect. I think it teaches, you know, I always in the middle of this answer, I think the first thing I said to our players when I was hired in mid-season of 1986, take over as head coach of the team, and I walked into the room and I said, you know, fellas, what it takes to succeed is simple, but it isn't easy. If you run, throw, block, tackle, catch, hit better than your opponent, you're going to win almost all the time. So hard work, focus, preparation, all of those things are important. I mentioned them already. Character, qualities, resilience, all of the things I already mentioned, but I'm having the opportunity to reaffirm right now.
If, Coach, we're talking about how football teaches you all those different character values, what does it mean to you when you come across former players who are now doing things outside the game of football, who are taking those same character values and utilizing them in a separate career? What does that mean to you as their former coach?
Well, I have great regard for so many of the players who've been my privilege to coach over the years. And it's great to see their careers beyond football. Yes, many of them go into coaching and are doing well. Frank Wright, now the coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, was our backup quarterback. He was Peyton Manning's quarterback, developing in Indianapolis Colts. One example, John Holisek here at Loyola Academy, state champions last year, currently on a 26-game winning streak. But beyond the winning, those qualities that I mentioned that he helps convey. So, but there are players outside of football, certainly. I remember one guy I coached in college, at Coe College, who went on to become a senator from Iowa, and another that I coached in high school in St. Louis, went on to become a senator from Missouri. So you see great things happening there. But it goes beyond just jobs that are in the spotlight. So many of them were great quality guys, high character guys. I could go on and on far beyond the time limits allowed in this program.
And I'll bring it up since you mentioned his name, but Frank Wright, who was your quarterback for that largest comeback in playoff history against the Houston Oilers. When you guys were down at halftime, and forgive me, I forget the score. I think it was 28-3, maybe 34-3, somewhere around there. What kind of character traits or how did you challenge the guys at halftime that made them believe and made them kind of bring something up inside themselves that motivated them to come on and come back and progress in the playoffs that year?
Well, first of all, I'll give a little background. We won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. Now we're in there again. We were playing the final game of the season against the Houston Oilers in Houston. We won it. We lit our division. We lost it. We'd still be in the playoffs. But Jim Kelly was injured. Cornelius Bennett, our best linebacker, was injured. Houston beat us. We were a wild card team. Houston also was the other wild card, so we played in the first game at home. Frank Wright Jim Kelly was not healthy. Thurman Thomas was injured, our best running back, Hall of Fame running back. Cornelius Bennett was injured out. At halftime, the score was 28-3 in favor of the Houston Oilers. Yeah, what did I say at halftime? It looks bad. We don't have our good players there. But I walked over to the bench at halftime where Frank was. Frank, I understand you engineered the greatest comeback in college football. He had as a substitute the Boomer Esiason from the University of Maryland, where they won an Orange Bowl game, I think, against Miami. He said today you're going to engineer the greatest comeback in pro football. Now that we've had one yet, sure. And we're walking up the tunnel. Our quarterback coach, Jim Schauffer, said, Marv, we're down by 25 points. The greatest comeback ever was 28 points. I thought Franklin. So we went out there, and in the next 7 minutes, in the first series of the second half, Frank threw a touchdown pass. But it wasn't to our guy. It was to their cornerback who intercepted it. Now we're down 35-3. We finally won that game in overtime. Frank bringing us back, miraculous fashion, greatest comeback in the history of pro football as it remains today. And so, a funny story at halftime, Frank came up to me in the celebration. I mean, after the game, came up to me in the celebration and said, Coach, I knew you were only down about 25. That's why I threw that interception. Yeah, I'll tell you a bigger one, I believe. So, that was it.
Very good. All right, we'll go back out to those students there at Loyola if we have another question for Coach Levy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Is there one thing that you love most about football?
Game day. Well, no, I love the competition. I love the camaraderie, the teammates, the excitement of game day. Those are great. I read one poem. I'm going to have to read another, if you don't mind. And I had time to go through it 4 or 5 sentences. All right? And it's called Coaching in the NFL. They got to help answer your question. Because when you win, you're the one who may score. But if your team comes out on the short end of the score, you are subject to scorn and even for wrath. So why did I decide to follow this path? Why hunger for a job that almost everyone who's hired somewhere along the way is likely to be fired? It's a job where you can begin to feel like a fool as you keep moving your kids to a new town, new school. But for 7 days a week for most of the year, you're away from home, those whom you hold dear, where you must deal with a roster that's always changing, and with all those egos that are often raging. But then again, there is that feeling on game day as those players sprint out onto the field to play. There are those added fans too. They add to the fun. We share joy and excitement whenever we won. Yes, from dawn to midnight during that long season, the coach is in a tiny film room or outside freezing. But despite those long hours and all that strife, I never really have worked a day in my life. So that's my philosophy.
Very good. Very good. So we'll go back out to Jennings High School. If we have a student there that has a question for Coach Levy, go ahead.
How much does an NFL football coach make in a year?
Was it more interesting coaching college players or NFL players?
Coach, the question there was, I guess, twofold. What was more interesting and what was more enjoyable, coaching college players or NFL players?
Well, okay. The reason I did enjoy coaching in the pros more than in college wasn't that there was another step up in the ability level. It was this. I found that coaching in the pros is 95% coaching. Coaching in college is 80% recruiting. And so that was the difference, and that's why I enjoyed it more. But I enjoyed it all. I had the opportunity to coach at University of New Mexico, University of California, and at the College of William and Mary, and I have fond memories of that.
All right, we'll go back out to Minnesota with our class there in Princeton if we have another question for Coach Levy.
My name is Reed, and I'm wondering, like, how did the players and, like, the game change throughout the years of you coaching?
And the question there, Coach, was from a young man named Reed, and he was wondering, through your coaching career, what were the biggest changes you saw in the game, but as well as in the players?
Well, first of all, I have to start out by saying everything evolves over time, whether it's technology, medicine, journalism, or coaching. So there are changes that evolve. As the years passed, players became bigger and faster. Maybe the collisions became even greater. The rules became more, more specific. But it's still the same things from the time I began coaching till the time I finished coaching. Something that didn't change. Same thing is still one game, as I mentioned before. The fundamentals. You run, throw, block, tackle, kick better than your opponent, you're going to win. Whether you run the 3-4, the 4-3, or whether you're running an option offense or the old single wing or whatever it is, so that doesn't change. That doesn't change. But certainly people learn new ways to make things a little better than they find.
All right. We'll go back out then to South Park if we have another question from our group there.
How were you able to handle so many superstars on one team?
I was able to handle them.
The question was, how were you able to handle so many superstars on one team, Coach?
It was a pleasure. More stars the better, to say the truth. No, they were good guys. The best way we were able to handle them, again, we didn't pick them only on the basis of ability. We picked guys that had character. So whether it's a Bruce Smith or a Thurman Thomas or a Jim Kelly or an Andre Reed, I can go on and on. They were different. Some of them were very bubbling personalities, and some of them were quiet guys. We handled them by, again, picking players of good character. And that didn't mean that they sometimes didn't disagree with you, but you can disagree without being disagreeable and work that stuff out.
And, Coach, you've obviously had a large role in a lot of players' lives. You've presented a lot of people here at the Hall of Fame for their enshrinement. But is there one specific person or someone that you would say had a large impact on your life?
Well, certainly my own father, of course. My own father, if I may do a little bragging, at the age of 16, he was picked as the junior as the outstanding basketball player of the city of Chicago, Bill High School. But World War II broke out. He lied about his age, joined the Marines, but he was a great guide for me as the years passed. So he certainly had an impact. My college football coach, Dick Lawson, he's a guy that made me think that coaching was a worthwhile profession. Those certainly are a couple. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was president during World War II.
Very good. And going back to, it's another question that we always kind of get asked, or we like to ask as part of this program. Another fellow coach here is John Madden. In his speech said that when the lights go off here at the museum, and we have our bronze busts, which are, for you guys who don't know, statues kind of top of the shoulders up through the head. But John Madden was saying that when the lights go off in the museum, that he thinks the busts talk to each other. Is there a specific bust that you would look forward to talking to if that really did happen?
I don't think if I talk to the bus, I don't think it would answer. So, no, I do know this, how all those guys in the Hall of Fame, I got to know them well, we've gone back many times to the induction ceremonies. I remember the day that I was so fortunate to be inducted, and someone once asked me, what were your feelings as you sat up there on the podium and were inducted? And I thought about it, and I know my feeling was, am I really here? All these great guys in the game. But I looked out into the audience, and there were guys like Jim Brown and Deacon Jones and some of the greatest players ever. And I still saw on their face as they wore their gold jacket, am I really here? So the Hall of Fame was a fantastic honor, not just because of the honor, but what it means, what it represents for the game, and those who share watching.
And I know Floyd Little always jokes that whenever he's having a bad day, he just goes up to his closet, grabs that gold jacket, puts that on, and walks around the house a little bit, and all of a sudden he's got a little bit more of a pep in his step just from putting that on. But it definitely is a cool icon as part of the enshrinement ceremony. And you've seen that enshrinement ceremony change drastically over the years since when you were enshrined to where it is now. It's gone through quite a change. But let's go back out to those students in front of you if we have another question for Coach.
As a coach, who is the hardest player to prepare to play against?
The guys wearing the other uniform, that's what I'll tell you. I can't, well, let me try and come up with one that would have been that way. Like, Dan Marino certainly was one of that nature. I don't want to single him. There are others that were too, but I mentioned Dan too because I think not only a great player, guy of very high character as well. But there were so many. It's just not fair for me to start doing it. If I start talking, I'll never get off the screen here.
Very good. Let's go back out to Jennings, see if we have another question for Coach out there in Louisiana.
What was the most difficult part about coaching?
The question there, sir, was what was the most difficult part about being an NFL coach?
Well, I can oversimplify. I know this is not what he's looking for. Losing most difficult part. But, as I said it at home, despite long hours and all that strife, I never worked a day in my life. I never felt difficult. I felt challenged. I felt sometimes inspired. I do have it. It was final cut-down day in the NFL. But you had to call in some guys because your roster were restricted to 53 players. And tell some guys that had worked so hard, and wanted so bad to make the team, you weren't going to be able to beat. Cutting guys, that's what it was.
How did that process of cutting guys and just transactions in general, how did that test your character in a sense?
How did that do what, Mike?
Test your character.
Well, I guess it does. I certainly didn't want to do it the cold-hearted way or would sign it to somebody else. I know some coaches would sign somebody else, but I wanted to do it straight out with the guys. And I don't know if it was a character test, but it certainly, you had to have compassion to felt that was happening. It was so late in the break against situation.
All right, we'll go back out to Princeton Intermediate there in Minnesota with our next question.
Hi, I'm Will. I want to know what coaches influenced you to be a coach?
The question there, sir, was what coaches really influenced you to be a coach?
Well, certainly my college coach, Dick Clausen. He later went on to become coach in Mexico and he had a great athletic director at the University of Arizona. I was fortunate in the pros to serve for 3 years as an assistant to George Allen, also a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, within the Chicago Bears defensive coach under George Allen, defensive coordinator. He is very innovative. He was terrific. Great influence on me. I have a lot of coaches against whom I coach, for whom I have great respect. For instance, the coach all the time. But beyond that, he taught clean football. We used to have a man who played hard, played clean, played with. And so he was told that don't be dumb and don't be dirty. Dumb to be dirty.
Very good. You spent 3 years in the Army, I think the Air Corps. Forgive me if I'm wrong on the amount of years, but what was one lesson that experience taught you that helped you when you became a coach, and and got into the NFL?
Well, I'll tell you, yeah, during World War II, I graduated in 1943 in the midst of World War II, High School in Chicago, and along with 21 of my classmates, after graduating, the war was still on raging. We enlisted in the Army Air Corps. Well, I matured. I grew up for a few years, and I had been just a very average student in high school. But there was a point, one time while I was in service, that I had to go to the hospital, and there was only one book in the library that I had spurned when I was in high school, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I read it, and I was blown away, and I became a very good student in college. Maybe I was fortunate to have that delay and mature a little bit. But the winners of World War II is not great.
We'll go back out to South Park if we have another question there from our group.
What does the Western New York community mean to you?
And the question there, sir, was what does the Western New York community mean to you?
Well, fond memories, terrific memories. I elaborated on some of them before about the great fans in Buffalo and great history there, by the way, in the city of Buffalo, surrounding area. I retain fond memories, go back often 3 or 4 times a year, and always enjoy doing so. Still have many friends back there. Some with the Bills, some just in the
Great. We'll go back out to our students there at Loyola. If we have another question from a student there, it looks like we have a hand up right behind Coach.
All right. Yes, good question, man. I often referred to military examples in coaching our players. There was a point early in my career, for instance, I'll give you an example, with the Buffalo Bills, where the Bills had lost 22 games in a row on the road. And so I went back, and probably most of the players didn't know what the heck I was talking about. But I went back and told them about Hitler during World War II, where he dominated in France and England early in the war. And later he invaded Russia, and that turned the whole war around. He's gone deep in Russia. So I thought, well, you know why Hitler lost the war? He couldn't win on the road. That was my night before the game talk to the players. Believe it or not, we went on the road the next day. And quite a few times after that. But I don't have Hitler.
We just real quick, being from the north side of Chicago, can you reflect on your Chicago Cubs fanhood and experience growing up?
Okay, that's about Chicago. Yeah, we're on the north side of Chicago now. I grew up on the south side. But back in the 1930s, when I was 5 years old in 1930, and beyond, even the south siders were all Cubs fans. But the Cubs then were a good team. They were going to the World Series. 29, 32, 35, 38. They went. They went again in 45. And I've been a Cubs fan. And I do know people in the Cubs organization well. I'm a good friend of Ryan Sandberg, one of their Hall of Famers, baseball players. But yeah, the Cubs are important to me. I was home on furlough after World War II ended, just about 6 weeks before. When the Cubs went into the 7th game of the World Series, and a friend of mine, also home on furlough, we rushed down trying to get tickets. The line was 2 miles long. They moved everybody in uniform up to the front of the line. We were able to see it. One ticket cost $1.10. Back then, Cubs lost the game. They're going back in. I hear it right now. Thanks for asking.
Well, I know you guys are there in Chicago, but Canton, Ohio is only about an hour south of Cleveland. So no disrespect, but go Tribe. That's all I got to say there. Well, hopefully it's a good series, but I got to root for my Indians here in Ohio.
I understand.
Okay, let's go back out to Jennings High School. If we have a student there with another question for Coach Levy.
what coach in the NFL today he believes coaches something similar to him?
That's a good question. That's a good question. The question is, Coach, is there a coach in the NFL today that reminds you of you when you were coaching?
Not really. I don't think so. Maybe there's someone similar. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. That's what makes it exciting. Everybody is different. And so I can't say that there is one. There are some qualities you like to be the same. Some qualities, hard work, dedication, but I can't say there's one today that I point to. Whoever I didn't point to, he's probably better off. Anyway.
There you go. We'll go then back out to Princeton Intermediate there in Minnesota.
My name is Thomas, and my question is, what was the most challenging game you lost to overcome?
Oh, it's another good question. The question, sir, was, what was the most challenging loss to overcome?
Well, probably Super Bowl 25, the first one we were in, where our team had to go back to work. The long, hard road to get to the Super Bowl, get some fantastic opponents along the way. So rallying the team, getting their work ethic back on track was challenging to me, and it wouldn't have happened unless they were people, as I pointed out many times, of the kind of character it takes to go back to work, not just lie there and whimper, but to get up and go back to work.
Yeah. We'll go back out then to South Park High School with our next question.
Do you think college football is more exciting than the NFL?
No, but I don't think it's less exciting. In other words, I think football is exciting all the way. The college football crowds are avid. Some of those great programs like Alabama, Penn State, Ohio State, so on. No, I like it all, whether it's college, high school, pro, you name it. I like it all.
Go back out there to Loyola. If we have another student there with a question from that group right in front of Coach Levy.
How do you recover from football loss, not just once, but multiple times?
Well,
if we could repeat that question, it came through a little soft on our end for the other schools.
You want to know how we recovered from the Super Bowl losses, not just one, but all of them. Well, we keep hitting on the same tactic, necessary character. The ability to go back to work, to not just lie there and whimper, but to get up and go back to work, to have people of high character on your team, to have the support we had from the people, the fans in Buffalo. Fantastic. You heard about so-called impossible dream. I guess it turned out to be that, but we went back to work. And despite the losses, I would retain fond memories of my association with those people that I have mentioned. And if you want, this might be a little bit long-winded, but I once sent something out. I sent a lot of newsletters out for our players in the off-season. And one of them I posted on a bulletin board is, what is a Buffalo Bills football player? And if I may read it, a Buffalo Bills football player can come any size, shape, or color. There is no common denominator except a love for the game and the desire to get the most out of his ability. He is proud of his strengths, but he understands his weaknesses. He is first of all concerned with the good of the team and knows that individual recognition comes most often through team excellence. A Buffalo Bills football player has the enthusiasm of an evangelist, the discipline of a monk, the heart of a warrior, and he never loses the honesty and character of a small boy. He appreciates the support of thousands of fans, but he is much more aware of the example he is setting for some young lad watching from the sideline. He is thrilled when he makes a big play, but never forgets that a teammate helped to make it possible. While he never lets up at either end of the field, he remains aware that the other team is not the real opponent. It is the full extent of his own potential that he is always playing against. He lets the referees, with occasional assistance from his coach, do the officiating. A Buffalo Bills football player is made and not born. He is constantly striving to reach his potential, knowing that he will bypass those players who cannot withstand the strain of this quest for excellence. He realizes that the challenges and competition of today's game will better prepare him for his future endeavors. He knows that the true measure of his performance is not recorded in just wins and losses, but in how much of himself he has given to the game and how he conducts himself when he wins and when he loses. A Buffalo Bills football player never realizes when the odds are stacked against him. He can be defeated only by a clock that happens to run out of time. A Buffalo Bills football player is what a young boy wants to become and what an old man can remember with great pride that he once was. That's what I felt was the basis.
Very good. Thank you, Coach. We got about 5 minutes left or so, and we did talk a bunch today about your quarterback, number 12, Jim Kelly. And Jim has obviously had some adversity in his playing career with the 4 Super Bowls, but he's had a bunch of adversity off the field as well with his losing his son Hunter, I think about around 8 years old, but more recently in his battle with cancer and beating that fight right now. When he was in the hospital, he said that he couldn't really name any teammates that didn't come see him. There were so many teammates that just flowed into the hospital room to see him, to encourage him, provide him with that encouragement to beat the battle he was facing. As a coach, does that make you proud? What does that say about the kind of guys you drafted, the kind of guys that were on your team, and the leadership you had on that team?
Well, Mike, that is another great testament, yes, great testament to the philosophy we had hoped to promulgate. Great testament to the character of the people on the team. The great testament to the character of Jim Kelly. What a guy he was. What a leader. And he lived by how he conducted himself on the field, not by what he said in the line. He cared about his teammates. After every game he hosted a party for all of them and their families at his home in Buffalo. He was diagnosed with very serious cancer. He fought it. He's come back. He's been free of cancer now for a little bit over a year. He had a lovable son, Hunter was a young man's name, who died of Krabbe's disease, I think at the age of 7 or 8. He rallied from that. He has 2 lovely daughters and a lovely wife. He's a dedicated guy. One of 6 brothers. He's got 5 brothers. He's one of the 6. He's got a nephew now, by the way, who's starring at quarterback at Ole Miss, Chad Kelly. The character of the players of the team, they cared about Jim Kelly. They cared about each other. But that was a great example that helped illuminate like that.
And last question for you, sir. What would you hope your legacy would be? 1, as a football coach, but 2, as just a great man.
I played hard, played clean, played to win. That I was a good family man. That I cared about my family. That I cared about my country. That I cared about other people. That I cared about the game. And that I'm thrilled to be in the Hall of Fame. And I could go on, but there's a pretty good cast on it.
Very good. Like I said, we got just a couple minutes left. So any closing remarks from you, Coach? Anything that you were hoping to talk about today that we didn't get to, or anything that you just wanted to reinforce in the last minute or 2?
Really, Mike, there's nothing new that I could come up with at this point. Please, an honor to be part of this program, particularly here at Loyola Academy, where John Hollisek is coaching. Talk about former players. There's one that's very memorable, certainly.
All right. On behalf of the Hall of Fame, David Baker, our fellow Buffalo guy, Joe Horrigan, and Pete Freely, on down to our education staff, I just want to thank you for your time, sir. Thank you for your advice. And if we could all unmute all of our mics and just give Marv Levy a warm Hall of Fame thank you and a round of applause for his time today. And that will conclude our program today. So thank you for everyone tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you sometime in Canton, Ohio.